Good afternoon, everyone. We'll call to order the Board of Directors meeting for the Juvenile Service Center. Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Commissioner Ross. Here. Commissioner Jackson. Here. Commissioner Hill. Here. Commissioner Lee. Here. Commissioner Jay.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. Any amendments to or additions to the agenda? I have one correction. Under the upcoming board meetings, that first date is supposed to be Tuesday, September 16th, not the 20th, 16th. My apologies for the typo. Any other amendments, additions, etc.? I think I failed to send out the minutes from the last meeting to you all, so we will approve. Oh, you sent it to everybody. Oh, okay, good. Did everybody have any changes? Edits?
I would just like to add thank you for being here and continuing to do this. I know there was a question about that.
Yes, the clerk has been most gracious. We also have Knox County Law Department here if any questions come up as well. So, all right, I'll look for a motion to approve last minute meetings from last minute. Okay, motion by Jackson, second by Lee. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. We will now open it up for public forum. I only got contacted by one gentleman. Is he, I failed to remember the name.
Probably me, Bob Chronic.
That was you. Okay, come on up, sir. If you would, anybody that is going to kind of report to the board today, we'll just sort of have you head to the podium, and I will have your timer. You can go on up, sir.
Okay.
We're at that part of the agenda, so if you would, I'll give you 5 minutes to address the board. If you would start by giving us your name and your county residence.
Bob Chronic, Knox County.
All right, floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. This is a topic that I think is extremely important, not just locally, but statewide and nationally. I ran a group home called Cooper House. It was in North Knoxville many years ago. And we knew a little bit about the Bean Center, and it was difficult at that point. So I hope we can learn from those earlier mistakes and make this an opportunity to go better. We can be the best at this. I'll give you two things that have stuck out in my mind over the years. One is the love affair with punishment. I hope you will look up the Rahway Prison Experiment, if you don't know of it. Rahway was a prison in New Jersey, and they called it Scared Straight. And they brought kids up there, and everybody yelled and screamed and jumped up and down at them. And when they did an evaluation, more of those kids violated than the control group. So at Cooper House, with the support of, I don't know if you ever knew Warden Lane at Russian Mountain Judge, but Warden Lane was probably the most progressive criminology person I ever met, because he let us come in there and bring our kids. We played them in softball. We played them in whatever it was, but we never yelled, and these kids learned from those convicts. Now, the other thing that sticks out in my mind is that there was an interview done, again, you don't know what was reported. He said the time at the Bean Center was more punitive than the time he was doing it at the Morgan County Regional Prison. So punishment, you raise kids, you know when to punish. A punish is designed to stop a piece of behavior. A negative reinforcement is meant to increase it. And too often, we don't get that. And we make mistakes. So I don't think there's anything more useful in going forward than a good theory. I am an academic, I can't help myself. That's what I think is important. So I'm excited for the opportunity. DCS, is there somebody here from DCS? Okay. I did an evaluation of 2 correctional schools with Dr. John Lounsbury from the psych department. And we compared the facility in Nashville with the one up here in Danbridge. and we did 2 years worth of work. Lamar Alexander was governor at that time. What did we find out? We found out that the public facility, the state-run, had significantly fewer referrals than the private one. So one of the things I said to, I'm trying to think of the lady's name, she was the commissioner of education here for a while. Don't privatize. That's a mistake, because somebody wants to make a lot of profit off the backs of poor kids. We can figure out a way to do this right and raise money in a correct way. What I found fascinating was that when I pulled up to the facility in Nashville, which I now understand has got a problem, they all knew I was coming. I found that really interesting. And I told them, I do not have your jobs in my hands. So the people that you're going to hire to do this work, probably taking on the toughest jobs that there are. Public school teachers, human service workers broadly defined, their mental health is at risk. I haven't given them half a century of my life. I watched this. And so I hope that as you begin to piece together what you want your program to be, that you also get, who do we want to be doing this? When I first came to UT, I'd get students that say, I want to work with people. And I'd say, go to McDonald's. There are lots of people there. It's more than just working with people, or I like them. So my last thing would be collaborate, which is an unnatural act between non-consenting adults. I'm not supposed to laugh at that. Anyway, you've got a bunch of programs that are in different levels of growth out there. Bring them in. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else here for public forum? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next part of our agenda. I handed out a handout. I'm happy to take any suggestions if there are things I missed. I think there's one in Loudoun County that I might have missed. But essentially, I put together a site map of all of the facilities across the state, the juvenile detention facilities. It's broken down by what county they are in, and then in parentheses, who runs those facilities. I might make sure that somebody from our DCS team might give you guys a copy as well. If you want to pass that over to them, Shane, there's some extra copies. And then of course the second page is just a breakdown of those facilities, where they are, and how to get a hold of them. I just thought it was an important thing for us as we continue to look at what is available and around us in a regional sense or in a statewide sense. And I'm sure each one of these has a different story, and each one of these has a different form and function, but all work with juvenile detention. So that's just a bit of learning and housekeeping for us to digest. Again, if I missed anything, especially our DCS team, please let me know. We'll do an update of that.
Just for clarification.
Sure.
And help me, I was under the impression that like Mountain View Academy and I think that's another one here, Wilder even, that they are not, they're not set up for short term.
They're DCS run treatment facilities,
Right.
or DCS are probably, they're long term.
That's
where you go to serve your sentence that you get here.
after detention.
Right. Maybe
So
maybe
it's a
where you
little
go.
bit different look.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ferret that out from the
Our
long-term
kids
from the
here
short-term.
are here short term unless the nature of the crime is very serious, and they may stay here a long while awaiting their trial. There's not anybody here for a long period of time after they're adjudicated.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Well, maybe I can work with DCS to determine which ones are long and short.
Yeah.
So again, this is a draft, and if there are revisions to be made, I'll issue it back out before we give it away. Item number 6, our Chief Administrator, Mr. Brian Bivens, has provided us an update. The floor is yours, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Won't bore you with all the details. I'm going to hit some highlights for you. We do have a correctional academy that's graduating this Friday at 1 o'clock at the Roger D. Wilson Detention Facility. So if anybody wants to attend that, I'm more than happy to have you guys out there for that.
This Friday?
Yes. I'll actually be on the floor starting on Monday. They'll be doing at least 2 weeks of on-the-job training, maybe more than that if I can pull it off. So they're going to be focused on cross-training, which has been an issue at the facility as well. So they're going to learn every aspect of the operations instead of just being siloed into one position and then that's all they work. Also in the packet is I've hired a captain who's going to be my assistant. He's taking Miss McLean's position as my assistant. She's got tons of experience. She starts September the 2nd. Happy to have her on our team. As far as operations go, Mr. Hart with CTAS was here a couple of weeks ago, spent 3 days with me. He anticipates having his final report sometime in mid-October for everyone. I think that's a good time for everybody as we move forward on the transition, so we can analyze his assessment and we'll be able to make some better informed decisions when we get his report.
It'd be great if that, if you would relay to him if he could get it to us in advance of October 28th for us to digest it, so that we could come to the meeting and have a robust conversation, not get it at the meeting.
Working with several folks, including PBA, working on a RFP for upgrading the camera system. Got a meeting actually next week to discuss that. And then we've already identified the cameras and a lot of issues. Actually, you got a diagram that shows the camera angles and where all my blind spots are. So I'll be able to know fairly quickly on how many additional cameras we'll be needing for the facility as well. The key box, key control is also an issue. We've got an electronic key box that's already been mounted, and we'll be implementing that process here probably in the next 2 weeks.
You've rekeyed all the facility.
Outside exit doors, yes. Partnerships, as previously mentioned, we're happy that we're partnering with a lot of different folks. We've put together a robust mental health team. Dr. Bly has been very, very important to me. I was very excited when I met her for the first time. Didn't know she existed about 2 weeks into this process. So also the school system is also assisting me with Dr. Stair on the mental health side and a couple of social workers. We've already implemented Habit, which is Comfort Dog. Knox comes to the facility at least twice a week, hangs out with the kids. They go to the gym, throw a ball, and they love it. So we're looking to expand that as well, having someone come in the afternoons. Again, working with Helen Ross McDowell on several initiatives. Bird Kind is the current program that's in there. They've asked for a second night of the week, so they'll be there on Mondays and Thursdays. Met with the Boys and Girls Club. We're looking at partnering with them on some exciting opportunities, potential. Got a meeting with the Metro Drug Coalition coming up Monday. Talk about some opportunities partnering with them as well. And then we're just going to fill the afternoons up with programming as we go, keep them busy. Still putting together some matrix for statistics that you guys need, so it's going pretty good. The Quest system, the computer system that the court system uses, we only currently use it for booking and release. We're going to expand that out so we can get some better numbers, statistics. The medical director, Dr. Keeble, is working with the Quest folks as well to get more medical information in there. And he's putting a template together for what we call H&P, history and physical, for the kids. Right now we can scan them in, but hopefully in the near future we'll actually be able to have that in the system and be able to track things a lot better when it comes to the medical side.
So this data on the bottom, this is just for the month of July. If I'm reading this right, males were here 3.72 days on average and females 2.5 days.
Correct.
The average daily population was obviously, 3 to 1, 4 to 1 male to female ratio, but the total bookings for the month were 59 and 23.
Correct. And the second column is the, from January 1 through July 31st.
And how many, so it's usually, right now it's still around 20 or so?
28 today.
28 today, okay.
So the numbers are a little skewed. So there'll be, obviously we had an unfortunate incident, Al, that everybody's familiar with. So he'll be here a much longer time while he's being studied and evaluated prior to trial. So he may be here 8 or 9 months or a year, depending on how long it takes for psychiatrists and psychologists to get him ready for trial. So that'll skew the average length of stay, because he'll be averaged in with the kids that just stay overnight and release the next day at 10 o'clock. So the numbers are a little bit misleading.
Maybe, I don't know, as we fine tune the data, maybe there's a way to, you know, break it into sort of the normal pace of things versus the, you know.
I'm hoping, my goal is to be able to break it out to DCS, like how judges kids.
Yeah, okay, all right, great.
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
I think it's a good way to start.
Yeah. And right now, it's been running about 50-50, those two numbers.
All right. And thank you for, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just, Brian, go back to your executive assistant, Megan. Is Megan's position replacing Ms. Kay's position?
No,
What is it?
Ms. Hewlett will be
Oh.
replacing Kate's position.
Okay.
Yep.
Have you got what you needed from the facility relationships around that information, the contracted information? I don't think we had that last time we had a meeting.
Like, who else
So,
is
like,
using our
no,
facility?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have like 17
Yeah.
other facilities that we have.
It's a pretty like loose knit operation. I'm not sure what to come up with a dollar amount, and how that works. I know as far as, if I abide by the federal law, Prison Rape Elimination Act, if there's a written contract, which right now I don't think there is, which I would suggest that we put something together with these counties, that through DOJ, I'm not allowed to house any of my kids at any of those facilities if they're not pre-certified. So that's something else we probably need to look at as well.
Okay. Other questions for Mr. Bivens?
On the total bookings and the kids that are here, do you know how many are violent versus non-violent crimes?
You have to sift through that as a system. That's probably a report that we can create through Quest. The data's in there, so it's just a matter of extracting it out.
Heidi,
I missed what.
you know how to segregate the violent crimes from the non-violent? Can you come up with a category of violent offenses? Check to see who's back there for that? Would that be a hard report to run?
I think we may have that.
Can you come up to the podium, just tell us who you are, just for the record, since we're,
It's my court director, Heidi Garrett.
I know, but give us your name and your county of residence and tell us who you are.
I'm Heidi Garrett, Knox County, and I'm court director here. So, yes, there is some statistical reports out there that will show you that, because it separates it by felonies and misdemeanors. So I would have to go out there. There's tons of reports. So
I think everybody, more data is better for everybody. So if you can include that and maybe work with
I
Brian
will.
to spit that out every month, that'd be really helpful.
Okay.
Isn't it in your annual report too?
It is, but you can write separate reports, like you can do it monthly, you can do it for a year, 6 months, however
Can
long
you,
you want to do.
come back for a second, can you tell us about this annual report? Is that for all of,
That's the court side.
okay,
Yeah, we don't really include a whole lot from detention, but we include a little bit, just how many children were there and, you know, from the counties and within Knox County.
would you
Just
mind
a total.
sending that to the board?
Yeah,
And
I'll
I think
send
it's
it.
just more we can learn
Yes.
about the whole system, the better.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you. All right.
So prior to this, detention itself did not generate a separate report? Is there such
Not
a
a-
thing?
They could have, they just
All
didn't.
right, I just want to be clear.
It was
Thank you.
available though.
Thank you.
It was a struggle not only to run the current computer program, it was a struggle to run the one before.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Bivens?
Yes, what about the uniforms? You had talked about about changing the uniforms. Has that happened?
Not yet. We're still getting quotes. We got one quote from a local vendor, and then I found out that there's another option for possibly cheaper. So as soon as I get those final numbers, then we'll proceed with that. That's going to happen fairly quickly.
Last time at the meeting, we talked a bit about the budget and upcoming potential expenses. I'm glad you included a copy of the budget for us. Currently, Mr. Bivens is working through with Knox County Finance and other Knox County departments to see what can be done with the existing budget before we go through any kind of new allocations. PBA has stepped up. I know the Sheriff's Department stepped up, and other services, and Chris Caldwell and the finance team are kind of working. So right now, we're just kind of giving that to you from information, but there's no requests or supplemental things outside the budget right now to consider for this board or for the commission. So, all right, thank you, Mr. Bivens. I appreciate that. Today, we also have from the Tennessee Department of Children's Services, Mr. Mark Anderson and his team. If you would come up and introduce yourself and your team, and I've asked them to kind of just give us an update on their work here and role and responsibility so that we're better informed.
Yes, sir. My name is Mark Anderson. I'm the Director of Licensing for the Tennessee Department of Children's Services.
And I'm Heather Helton. I am the current licensing consultant for the Richard L. King Center.
You'll have to bear with me getting over respiratory infections.
No problem.
We don't have a formal presentation. Just wanted to say that from a departmental perspective and regulatory perspective, our involvement during this transition has really been to kind of be a resource to Knox County government, to the administration at the facility itself, with regard to compliance with state licensing regulations, also to be kind of a resource just for questions that may come up as you go through this transition, because this is not just a transition of leadership, it's really been a transition of operations in general. I mean, whenever you have a transition like this, it has to take place under these circumstances. You've already got kids in the facility. You can't stop operations. You have to kind of hit the ground running and take it in stride. And when we first started talking to Mr. Vanderbeek a couple months ago about the transition, he had told us then, we've got a guy that I know of that could do this. We really hope we can convince him to do it. If we can, we'd be perfect for it, as Mr. Bivens. And Mr. Bivens has been great to work with. We've been very impressed with the whole of Knox County government. Mr. Vanderbeek, obviously the mayor, Glenn Jacobs, Ms. Ellis, and Mr. Parton from the health department. We've just had Mr. Easterly from Knox County Records. We've just had a lot of interaction with a lot of folks from Knox County government. Everybody has been very positive, very supportive. But we've just really been impressed with Mr. Bivens' leadership. The fact that he is putting so much emphasis on mental health services and community resources, bringing them into the facility, we think that just bodes well for the future of this particular facility. And this facility's been here a long time. We used to say it's got good bones. I mean, from a physical plant perspective, this is a really solid, well-built facility. It's huge. There's a lot of capacity there. It's been very well maintained. And I think you have a real opportunity here to have a state-of-the-art program, both from a physical plant perspective, but also just from a program management perspective, and being able to, because this is a difficult population of kids to serve. It's difficult to provide services to them. It's also difficult to maintain order in these types of facilities. You have kids that come from different backgrounds that have, a lot of them have mental health issues, a lot of them have a lot of presenting problems that make it particularly difficult just to serve them uniformly in a setting like this. And I think that's one of the real challenges here. And I think the more you have community resources being brought in, the more you have that focus on mental health services, therapeutic services for these kids while they are at the facility, the better it's going to run. But I know that's a long ramble, but it's kind of our experience. We just want to reiterate that we've just been very impressed with both Knox County government, their response, and kind of seeing the facility through this transition and leadership.
I have two quick questions before I open up the floor. Are all inspections, are there any outstanding inspections, licensing issues, any safety issues, anything that you've seen that is sort of still needs direct attention that you all, because you all inspect weekly, monthly?
During the transition, we've been asked by our commissioner to have a weekly presence at the facility. I think once that transition is complete, we will kind of pull back and generally speaking, for the other detention centers, the state would go out quarterly. So,
Are there any issues outstanding right now that are red flags for you, or?
I'll let Heather speak to that, but I do want to say that we have had a difficult time. For publicly administered programs, we don't issue an actual license. We put them in the same cases, subject to the same regulations that we would if they were a licensed facility, but if they're a publicly administered facility, we approve them based on the licensing standards. And so, rather than getting a license, they get an approval letter from us each year. We have not been able to approve the facility up to this point. We just had several outstanding issues. Most of the recent issues that we had were around health-related services. But we feel we'll be out there in October to do an assessment for the annual evaluation. We feel like we're on track to be approved. We don't have any outstanding issues that I'm aware of. Heather,
No, I've been making weekly visits for the last several weeks to the detention center as the transition has been taking place. While Mr. Bean was still there, and since Mr. Bean has left and Mr. Bivens has taken over, my main goal has been to just help Mr. Bivens with this transition, answer any questions that he has, especially surrounding the licensing standards and what's required, as far as we're concerned with, just the state laws and all of those kind of things. So Mr. Bivens has been very open with receiving any kind of recommendations that we have, and has been very transparent about some of the issues that he's found, and raises them before I could even raise them, which is, in my opinion, a very positive thing. Right now, we don't have anything that's just a glaring issue for us. Like I said, we're kind of taking it slow as we're going through this transition period, and just trying to be a resource for him to help.
My second question is, we had heard about either a comptroller report or some sort of pending report on the facility, and kind of prior to, is there something that's still kind of looming out there, either with the comptroller, with you all, that will come, and what is it, and when will it arrive?
Yes, sir. There is a review of the department, and all the departments have associated functions every couple of years with the state comptroller's office. One of the emphasis of this year was they wanted to visit the juvenile detention centers across the state, so they went to a number of our juvenile detention facilities. I think when they came here, there were some questions and some issues that were kind of raised directly to the comptrollers by the health division of the facility here. And so there was some communication going back and forth between them. I think they felt like they were getting good data. I don't foresee any real problems with that. We think the comptroller's report should come out sometime next month. So as soon as it does, make sure that you get a copy of that. But no, I mean, there was a comptroller's visit here. There were some issues that were discussed back and forth, but this was part of the broader review.
So they were looking at the whole state? Okay, all right. Yeah, when that report comes out, we certainly would love to intrude them. Any questions for our team at DCS?
Yeah. You guys are, in your audit, explain to me, is it an audit or is it a walkthrough?
So right now, I'm meeting with Mr. Bivens weekly, and like Mr. Anderson said, we generally do what we call audits every 3 or 4 months for the facilities. Right now, since I'm meeting with him weekly, I'm not doing a full-blown audit every time. Sometimes it's just to ask him if he needs anything from us, any assistance, has any questions, stuff like that. Last week I did do a walkthrough of the facility, which hadn't been done since the transition took place. So I did that last week. I also interviewed some children during that time and talked to them. When I interview kids, I ask them, things like, do they feel safe where they're at? How do they feel like they're being treated by the staff? We talk about their daily schedule, what that looks like, how often they're able to come out of their rooms and have activities, things like that. I've talked to them about whether they've had any grievance issues, if they have any concerns about the food that's being served to them, and just general questions just to feel them out, make sure that they feel like they're being treated well. So when I met with the kids last week, I just chose 3 random kids out of the kids that I talked to, out of the kids that were in the facility at that time, and all were positive about their safety and how they feel like they were being treated by the staff, all of those types of things. So, like I said, generally that's something that I do on a quarterly basis. We haven't really talked through everything that I'll be doing on a weekly basis, but that will probably be done at least a couple more times before this transition period's over.
So is any documentation being done after these conversations?
Yeah, I'm generating a report.
Okay, can we get that report?
Yes. Yeah.
Other questions? Ms. Hill?
Mr. Helton and, or Ms. Helton, Mr. Anderson, I really appreciate you being here. And I'm very excited to hear about the new DCS involvement on such a frequent basis. I have great concerns about the way it's been, not to harp on that, but the fact of the matter, this facility was out of compliance for not just a few months, but for, you could probably tell me, 2 years, 3 years at least. My question is, so what does happen quarterly? What did happen quarterly? And what will happen with these new audits, and when a deficiency is found and it's not corrected? It appears in the past that the approvals, the certifications were still just renewed year after year. And what can you do to assure us that this type of thing, I don't think it would, Mr. Levins, will not be allowed to happen again? It's disturbing that our accreditation board, our certification board, did not remedy this when you ultimately are the final authority in this detention facility.
Yes, ma'am. So with the publicly administered programs, we're in a little bit more of a difficult situation because we don't have a license to act against. So,
but you do have certification and you do have yearly renewals that you grant.
we do we grant approval each year.
Right.
So the majority of the issues that we've had that have prevented approval over the last couple of years have really revolved around policy updates. We changed our rules in 2017. We added a lot more wording in there around the use of what we term restricted behavior management, which involves the use of restraint, physical and mechanical restraints, inclusion, and in some facilities, chemical defense sprays. And so because we had such a such an in-depth revision of our rules at that time, we had asked that all the facilities change their policies in order to comply with the wording for the new rules. We had problems with more than one of the facilities in that department. In terms of Richard Bean and this particular location, our biggest issues were that the policies were not being updated and that we were not able to see those changes that were both in policy and local procedure around the use of those practices. Our most recent concerns, we had resolved that issue with them, and our most recent concerns when we were out there over the last few months has been around the provision of health services. And that was relatively, we've had some findings in that area in the past, but not to the degree that we had over the last several months prior to the transition. And so that was an issue for us as well. So yes, we have not granted approval for the last 2 years for that reason. When it comes to, we don't have a license to act against, so we don't have a mechanism in place for us to be able to enforce compliance as we've been with an agency that was licensed where we could take adverse action against the license, revoke the license, license suspension. So it's a little bit more difficult for us, but again, we will continue to provide oversight, we'll continue working with the administration here, and we feel very confident at this point that a lot of those prior issues would be addressed and resolved.
The structure was he answered to a citizens board. He answered to a 3-person board.
and
That, he didn't answer to DCS. They advised him, they came in and did regulations, but he answered to a 3-person board.
doesn't the accreditation though, I mean, what happens if they just continue to not meet your certification or your approval standards? Does DCF just have, you just say,
No,
well, too bad?
at this point, so if a program is licensed, if they're actually issued a license, if it was a private agency, we have a couple of private detention centers that actually have licenses.
Right, but we're
Or
not
if it were,
talking
or
about.
for other type of program, then we would have a license that we could act against, where we could do kind of progressive adverse action, where we could put them on probation to kind of get their attention to begin with. If that's still going to resolve the issues, then we can take further action. We can freeze admissions, we can put them on a summary suspension, we can terminate the license. None of those options are available to us for the publicly administered program. So we have really 2 options. We have the withholding of approval, which is what we've done the last couple of years. And the next option is to take everything that's happening to civil court and file an injunction in court. And we don't have, so to either have a fairly ineffective option or an option that is basically a nuclear option. We're having to pull them into court, they're having to put themselves in circuit court. And so we don't have that progressive structure in place that we would with the traditional justice program. So I think at this point, if we were to have a situation where we felt things were egregious enough where children's safety and well-being was in danger in some way, we could file that injunction. That would be a commissioner level decision right now. Our plan at this point is to continue monitoring and working with the administration.
And I have no doubt that you'll do that, and I appreciate what you have done. I guess this board is just looking for assurances that if it starts getting bumpy in the future, that there is, besides the citizens board or whoever, that there would be more.
They were never invited to a board meeting, to my knowledge. This is brand new turf. They've never been to a board meeting before.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. However, they still were the ones that were looking for the approvals, and it didn't happen. So.
Didn't get the approvals, and I think we're starting to understand why. So.
This structurally, per our ordinance, is set to transfer to the sheriff, and essentially this board goes away in 6 months. When it goes to the sheriff's department, is that still a public agency, as if you're talking about, in that you essentially can have oversight, but if you want anything enforceable, you're going to have to take the sheriff to court to enforce it, versus a separate agency running a facility that would be, one of our mental health agencies or protection agencies or something like that. Okay.
Yes, sir. And we will, when we issue a report, particularly when we're doing our quarterly business and our annual evaluation, we will ensure that the facility administrator also works on that, so that if the board wants to take action based on, discuss with us certain findings.
So in the future, if that structure were to remain the same, you can make sure the administrator gets a copy and maybe county commission, so at least we have a knowledge of what's going on in real time. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that reassurance.
Sure.
Commissioner Hill referenced accreditation. You do not provide accreditation. Accreditation is provided by who?
There's different accrediting bodies that work generally with the child welfare program. On the correctional side, the most common for detention centers, most common accrediting body would be the American Correctional Association. American Correctional Association. Yes. Historically speaking, we've had hard racing court facilities, both administered by the facility, by the department, and also contracted by the department. There has been a requirement that those facilities would be accredited either by JACO or CARF or the American Correctional Association. So from the hard racing court facility, that's probably will be the best option.
I have a question. Kind of along what Commissioner Gill was speaking about, and not directed at you two personally, but I just have a hard time understanding, like, if things had not happened just recently with the Bean Center, would this just continue to be the way it was? I mean,
No,
I don't see why no action was taken.
I understand. We had actually taken this to our general counsel, we taken it to the Commissioner had, prior to all of this happening, the transition, Mr. Dean's leaving, the Commissioner had already arranged at the meeting with the staff here at the court and with Richard Dean himself to kind of come in and see what the department could do, what the issues were, and things along those lines. So that meeting subject became kind of a moot point once all of this transition took place, but we were already, the Commission was already taking action at that point.
I can vouch for that because I was included, I was gonna be part of that meeting, so she called me directly, so. We'd already taken some action about the same time.
Explain to me what you mean by withholding of approval. Approving the facility to be a facility? So for 2 years, you would withheld approval?
Yes, sir.
But it operated anyway because it was under oversight of the civilian board.
I don't know that that was ever reported to our boards. I don't remember it ever being reported on our quarterly meetings.
Well, and they were never invited to board meetings, so.
But they still
Yeah.
did it.
They still have
They
approval authority, yes.
No, but like, if I'm hearing correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't, this is new to me. If they said we're withholding approval, then this facility should not exist. Correct?
Or it shouldn't have any,
It
yeah.
shouldn't have had any children.
By withholding approval, we're essentially saying that they're not meeting the compliance threshold, so we
So like losing their lease, we might still stay there, but.
Yeah. And then at a certain point, they
Yeah.
don't come again.
They were about to, the commissioner was on her way here for a meeting.
Yeah, so that's what,
Yeah,
okay. That's
I
what
think
you're
all
trying
of
to-
this and the personnel things all tied together all at one
I
time.
got it, yeah.
All right, any other questions for our DCS team? They are, they know the schedule going forward. They're invited to come be part of our meetings for the next few months, and they've been very communicative and open and engaging, so we appreciate you guys. I appreciate you. Next item on our agenda is an update on mental health services from Dr. Marie Bly, Juvenile Court Mental Health Director. Dr. Bly, welcome. If you would just give us your name and county of residence, and look forward to hearing from you.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's late, everybody's ready to hear about mental health now.
Yes.
That's what we've heard. I'm Dr. Marie Bly, and I'm the Director of Mental Health Services here at Juvenile Court. I was brought in about 20 years ago by Judge Tim Irwin, who's very innovative and visionary, and has allowed me to develop a program here. And I'm going to tell you about the program here. We started here at court, but I want to tell you how that's been overlaid into detention, ideally and functionally and theoretically. My program is called the ASSIST program, Adolescent Intervention Support Services Team. It's staffed by 7 interns, 4 of which are second-year master's level from the School of Social Work. We have a very low budget, obviously, so 4 of which are master's level second-year social work students, and 3 of which are PhD from the psych clinic students. So they provide services. The services that we provide are primarily assessment, though it expands that, and I'll explain that. Assessment, and those assessments can include mental health assessments, alcohol and drug assessments, risk assessments, and full psychological evaluations in a very timely, fluid, and inexpensive manner, which is free. That's the value of our services. The services we also can provide, direct services, are individual counseling, and that can include skill building like coping, anger management, conflict resolution, communication, which our adolescents are sorely in need of. So we teach a lot of skills when we do individual counseling, and we work with their families as well. We can do group counseling as well. So we have a lot of services that we provide. One of the beauties of my program is there's no charge to it. And it's immediate. As soon as someone comes out of court or comes into detention, we can have access to them to assess and determine what service that they need. Our goal in juvenile court is rehabilitation. So we're wanting to look at ways that we can help increase their level of functioning to be more pro-social and to be more successful and to sustain that successful level of functioning and to reduce recidivism. That's always the goal. We also provide we're well involved with our community partners. Our partnerships are essential in the community, so we provide referral services. So someone can come out of court and they're immediately connected with services in the community in a timely way. We have some backdoor entrances so we can assist in getting those services. Or a detainee can go into detention, and before they're released and contingent on their release, we can set them up with services in the community that are on the staff lane to provide them with stability and productivity and a more successful level of functioning that ideally can be sustained. If there's a waiting list for those services, which I think we're all familiar with, if you've had any experience with mental health, a 6-month waiting list, we can see them in the interim and provide services until they're fully engaged in those community-based services, and we're sure it's a goodness of fit. They're getting the services, the width and breadth of services that they need. So those are the services we can provide. Up until a month or so ago, until Mr. Vivens came on board, we were very restricted. We had all these services in place for juvenile court, and they were active and they're quite successful. But until Mr. Vivens came in and opened the door, we were really restricted in providing services in detention. My exclusive domain was mobile crisis. I was always invited in mobile crisis because I needed to make sure I supported the commitments that they made, and worked with the client, the detainees, until we could get them into a secure acute facility, because these folks are really fragile. So the other thing, my other involvement with detention was PREA, prison. Are you all familiar with that? Prison Rape, what is it? Prison Rape Elimination Act of 2003. So I was a clinical super oversight person, and I would participate once every 3 years when they would have a evaluation and accreditation. I would participate in that. Now, what Mr. Vivens has put in place, which we're all really excited about, when I was over there earlier about that, as soon as a detainee, as soon as a youth comes in and is going through intake in detention, they are given a screening, an intake, which will identify those folks that are high risk to self and to others. And those that meet the criteria, immediately those referrals are sent to me and my staff. So it's gonna reduce or eliminate some of the disruption, some of those externalized aggressors, some of the risks that may upset the kind of the milieu, the equilibrium there that we want, the safety that we want to have for all of detainees. So we're able to have immediate access to those kids and provide these services that we have. So while they're here, we provide those services, and then when they're discharged and released, they have access to those services, and they're set up, they're in place. It's not that, no one returned my phone call. They are in place before they leave here.
And you said you had not had access before, or very, very
I've had
restricted.
very, very restrictive access. If an attorney would mandate or order that, or a judge would order that, I would do that. But not to do the kinds of services that we want with screenings and the follow-ups.
Also, we need to point out that the mental health screening on every kid that comes in sounds great. It's something I tried to implement 20 years ago. My pushback came from the public defender's office, who did not want their clients being asked questions by someone else in detention. And they were worried about protecting their constitutional rights, so they wouldn't allow those types of CANS assessment, for example. They wouldn't allow their clients to go through it, and they still don't in certain aspects. So we do that when we can. But there's a constitutional argument about not incriminating yourself, and I kind of get both sides of it, but I would love to be able to screen for the dangers. We do not want a dead child on our hands, inside or outside of this court. That's why we're here.
Well, PREA is allowing us an access point.
Yeah.
It's allowing us a legitimate, legal, federal opportunity to access these kids. And so I was talking to Ms. Bishop today, so we're going to talk about those kids that we get those referrals immediately. I just received 3 today. So we'll have access to those kids that we know are fragile and vulnerable coming in. 94 to 97% of the detainee populations have been traumatized, significantly traumatized, and would meet criteria for post-traumatic stress disorder most likely. And they meet the national standards, because that's what my dissertation was on. How do we compare? So they need those services, but having access to them and providing, and we have the services. We have a great continuum of care. 2 of my supervisors are Lady Flores, she's in charge of the psych clinic, and Dr. Katie Smith, and she's a forensic psychologist. So we all meet collaboratively to make sure these kids have really good oversight and good testing batteries and have services that are specifically targeted to their needs. We just haven't been able to provide that. And now I'm so excited because it's an opportunity. And detention is the most pivotal time to be able to gain access to these kids. Their anxiety, their level, their receptivity. So the length of stay may not be, maybe not a hallmark, but it still is, they're most receptive to intervention. And we have the services.
Does your, go back to the point about trauma, does your assessments work through, we've heard about ACEs scores and that level of ranking, and then do you also partner with organizations in Knox County like a Child Help, so in case there were abuse issues or other underlying issues, you have an avenue to explore that with an agency that specializes in that abuse side as well?
Yes, but we use ACEs. We have a battery of tests that we use that are nationally ranked and are normed on the detainee populations. They're real specific to ours. So we use ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. We use a number of tools. So we don't rely on self-report because adolescents aren't always the most forthcoming or candid with us, and or sometimes knowledgeable.
No.
So, I know, hard to believe. So we use a number of different tools to be able to access that information and then compile that information and make some recommendations. And then we do have partners in the community. We rely on those partners. They're pivotal in our program. So we use Sexual Assault Crisis Center. We use Child Help. And I also deal with the D&M population, so I deal with a lot of those partners as well. So the McNabbs, the youth villages are pivotal partners for all of us to work. And we all have a real seamless kind of communication network. There's no turf issues in Knox County. Do you know this is the only court in Tennessee that has this kind of program? I know, but we're fortunate to have UT, and we're fortunate to have Judge Irwin here.
In addition to Dr. Bly, we also have a manned office with a representative from Helen Ross McNabb in this building, in one of our offices here.
She's a liaison,
Yeah.
So anytime we need records, anytime we need to know if anybody's had access to that services, and she can expedite that for us. So we have the school social workers that are here as well. So we have a village. Carrie Garrett erected years ago, and Judge Irwin has maintained and really increased. So I thank you, and I'm excited about what's going on in detention, because when I go back there and I see the changes that you've made, the energy that's back there, the positive energy that back there is I've never felt that before in 20 years. So thank you for all what you're doing. I'm excited to be a part of it. Any questions?
Any other questions?
I just want to say again, I want to temper everybody's expectations a little bit, because we got to follow the Constitution and the law. And defense attorneys don't like their children participating in initial questionnaires and stuff. Sometimes they block it. And before an adjudication, before a determination of innocence or guilt, or delinquency or not delinquency, they drive the train. They get to make that call. After there's been a determination, then I get to make the call while we're waiting on disposition about what types of questionnaires. So once there's been a disposition, we're wide open. We can speed all the services. Sometimes they get blocked by the attorneys. It's just, everybody needs to understand that. That's the Constitution. It's bigger than all of us.
Finesse the attorneys, and sometimes
the attorneys will go for it.
I'll go to the attorneys, they'll say, your client, your probation officer has recommended these services for these reasons. We stay away from charges, and so we craft it. So we try to, and some have been very, very cooperative with us and appreciate. We have attempted murder folks back there that their attorneys have said, please go see my kids back there. We're like, but we do. So I appreciate what you're saying, Judge, and that has been one of my frustrations to have full access to those, especially when I was working on my dissertation. But there are ways, there are still a number of kids that we can have access to, these kids custody, kids that are post-adjudication, PREA kids that really need the services, that are vulnerable and fragile and need those services. And so I'm excited to be able to have the opportunity.
Okay.
I appreciate your use of the graduate students. I know how valuable they can be. Now that it sounds like you're going to be utilized much more to your potential capacity. Have you thought ahead? Are there going to be any kind of lapse in these services, as so many of the students, they go with the semesters, and so you've got sometimes summers and long breaks, about how potentially that could be bound together or plugged in any way?
You're right, I am reliant on interns, and so I try to stagger that and have summer interns, but I'm a one-person show.
Yeah.
We try to do, and again, with our community partners with McNabb, and we try to structure things so that the ebb and flow of services, I open it up for the interns coming in and they kind of collapse out a little bit, but ebb and flow, we try to provide service. And interns that are great, they're so dedicated to being here, they'll work beyond when their school's supposed to be out there
The
working.
stipend for the interns is a
Thank you,
grant
thank you, that's
from the
right.
Knoxville Bar Association that we apply for each year. It's a small grant.
So they are
They get a
paid.
little bit of money, like $1,000 maybe, or 500, I don't know what they get.
Well, they can get up to 2,000. We've been lucky for the last probably
Yeah.
20 years since you've been here that we get that Bar Association Foundation, and they come to us and say, do you still want that? And so it provides
Yeah.
stipends, which is incentives for
Okay,
getting the
yes.
best students. It also provides continuing education that they couldn't afford otherwise. So, and that our program couldn't afford. But you're right, that is a challenge, to open up the opportunity and then kind of collapse it a little bit too. So I rely on my partners, and I'm really busy.
I'm so excited, thank you.
She's got a lot of energy.
Thank you, Dr. Bly, I
you,
really
appreciate
appreciate it. We'll no doubt hear from you more as the program continues. Next on our agenda is an update on our educational programming from Heather Willis in Knox County Schools, as well as if you would join us at the podium. Pass out your handouts, and you would just state your name and your county residence and your position.
I'm Heather Willis, Knox County. I'm from Knox County Schools, and I'm a school culture supervisor. I met most of you doing the walkthrough next door, but it was rushed. So I prepared a very brief overview because I want you to fully understand the educational program that we are supporting at Richard L. Bean. Dr. Cronick said something when he was up here that really hit strong with me before I start. Working at the detention center, you can't just hire someone that wants a job. You need someone that has that passion and desire to really work with the justice-involved children. And that is one thing I'll say about the staff that Knox County Schools has hired to support the facility, is we have teachers that are very dedicated, and their desire and their passion is to work with students that are justice involved. I've been working with this population for about 15 years. So when I'm doing interviews to hire teachers, I do not get in a hurry. Sometimes I take a really long time because I'm looking for a couple of qualities. I'm looking for teachers that can teach regular ed, special education, and want to teach children that are incarcerated. So not every person can teach in our facility, in our center, but we have teachers that are very dedicated to our population. You can look here, I'm listing the staff. We have a part-time special education teacher, 3 full-time Knox County School content area teachers. So we have math, language arts, we have science, and then the social studies teacher is actually a correctional guard at the center that we pay for with our Title I funding. We have itinerant staff that come in and out of the building. So we have a therapeutic professional partnership therapist, Dr. Clovis Stair, a social worker that's part-time. We have school psychologists, and then we provide speech language, OTPT, hearing, anything that students need for their school support. Knox County School provides that. Central County Commission, I thought you might be interested in funding. So Knox County Schools pays for the 3 full-time positions out of the Knox County School general purpose budget and the part-time special education teacher, and also all of the itinerant staff. Title I is where we have most of our funding that's not personnel. So our educational assistant that teaches social studies, that's the correctional officer, is paid for out of Title I. All of our instructional supplies, it's not like content areas, so like the books and everything that Knox County School students get, we get here. That is no different. But all of the extra supplements, all of the extra software for computer programming, all comes from Title I budget. We also, if we have enough money in the summer, can help fund summer school, if that's available. Grant funding, so the grant that we have is going away at the end of this year. I was able to move things around in Knox County schools to allow time for a therapist to come. That funding is over, but we are going to collect good data to see what we need to continue and utilize for the future for that position. So looking at our instructional day, our classes run on a 60-minute block. So we might go to English 60 minutes, math 60 minutes, social studies 60 minutes. We rotate on a cart, so our teachers are on a cart so that we don't have students in the hallways at all times during the day. And in the afternoon, we're really focused on life skills. So we're really wanting to talk to them about anger management, budgeting and finance, career options, getting outside speakers to come in and talk to us from TCAT. This is also a time where we do library because our students are able to check out books so they can take them and read them throughout the day. In the morning, we do give them an hour for physical activity that's built into all of their schedules. The instructional day is very focused on earning credits. If we have students that have the potential to earn credits, we are focusing on getting those credits done while they are here. We do that in multiple ways. We reach out to the schools and get information from teachers. We have Eduity. A typical lesson, they would start out with an introduction. They will do a classroom lesson just like any other teacher. If it's science, they're going to be doing science experiments creatively in different ways than you would in a typical school. But we try to run a lesson like any other classroom in Knox County schools that has children with multiple abilities within the same group. And then we end our time with either working on Eduity or working on coursework that schools send from their zone schools. You might ask how you get that work. Well, we have a mandated form. It's called an educational service plan. It's kind of like the justice-involved IEP process for special education students. You have a plan. The base school is required by Tennessee to send us the information. It has all their credit information, transcript information, anything that will help us deal with behavior plans so that we can be successful and we can keep children caught up in their work because that is our goal. If we have kids for a month, we want them to be able to go back to school and enter in and not be delayed. So our goal is to make sure that we have that seamless transition to and from the center. When the student leaves, we also provide a completed ESP back to the base school. We have a transition coordinator that Title I pays for that coordinates and speaks to the school counselors. We send information back to school principals. We do this for out-of-county and in-county schools. The state requires it for only out-of-county schools, but we in Knox County feel like the same procedure needs to be done for every school. So we'll do that for our Knox County school students also, so we can make sure that we are also following them back into their school to help with that transition. So the new program that we have that I'm very excited about, I will say that meeting with Mr. Bivens has been extremely exciting because I do have a major passion for this work, and he's like, okay, do it. So he's kind of been really letting me do things that ideas I've had for many years, and so letting our therapeutic therapist come in. Right now, she is not individually seeing students. We're going to coordinate with the wonderful Dr. Bly and any outside agency that is going to provide mental health. We'll meet and we'll come up with a good solid system to make sure that we, as the mental health providers, are adequately serving our students. We don't want 3 therapists, counselors to meet with kids. So we need to have a good systematic approach to that. She can do consultation with teachers. So say we have some students that are misbehaving, she can go in, observe, provide feedback. She can kind of watch kids in classrooms, do classroom observations to give feedback. She might even be like, yeah, that kid, we might need to refer to Dr. Bly. So we're very, very, very excited about our mental health support. One of the things that we have already started, and it has gone over great, I know that Mr. Bivens mentioned this, is habit. And I've provided you with an amazing picture of Knox. Knox is the best habit dog. He has already made, he actually worked this morning. So he was on the job, and he has really bonded with a lot of individuals that have been with us long term and will be with us long term. So it's very interesting to see the connections that's being made. And we all know that if you have a bond with an animal, it opens up to a lot more type of opportunities for students. But Knox is involved. He comes several times a week, and most of the time when he comes in, he might go into the classrooms, but a majority of the time he's going into the PE, the physical education part, so that he can be active. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. The school social worker that we've added, very, very excited about this too. Not only is she Knox's mom, and she will be going in with Knox, she is going to work on community resources, community partners. She's already working on donors, speakers to support the afternoon. So after we're done teaching and the school day's over, she's going to try to help get speakers to come in, because one of the major goals that Mr. Bivens has is to keep students busy, children busy. As we all know, if they're busy, they're engaged, they're less likely to misbehave. So we are going to help supplement that and provide some outside programming and recruit people and groups to come in to focus on areas of need, whether it be A&D, anger management. The topics and varieties are endless on what we can get from the community. And she's also, the social worker's working on donations. You might say, why do you need so many donations? But that is because we are really looking at increasing the incentive program. And for some reason, some of the slides are missing. But the incentive programs that we're starting, because we all know that sometimes we have behavior concerns. And if students do not have motivation to work for something, then that is when there becomes an issue. So the social worker's job is to really look at getting some incentive programming put into place. So looking at getting donations, like incentive carts. She's looking at getting switches for incentives, traveling computers, snow cones, popcorn, cornhole. Also looking at getting donations for the habit program, so that she can use that, because the students are going to be training Knox. So they can earn time with Knox and teach him new tricks, which is very motivational for some students. We have noticed a huge increase and shift in school attendance already, and we are only into, the second week of school, and attendance is great. School students are very involved, and it seems like everything is going in a very positive way. So if you might want to know about accountability, we do testing with all students within 5 days that they are with us. And then we do progress monitoring throughout the time. So every 4 weeks, we retest to determine that students are making progress, to see if we need to change any of our programming. The state does come in, they do monitor us. They do an on-site monitoring every single year. It's pretty in-depth, and I have worked closely with the State Department throughout everything. And we have very good ratings with the State Department for our educational programming. And I think it's that passion from the teachers that show through whenever they're here, knowing that Knox County Schools is here to do whatever we can to support the students. What questions do you have for education?
Mr. Jackson?
Do you provide opportunities in the arts or music?
So in the past, they had the boys and girls coming in to do art class. We have not. We have budget for 3 teachers and 1 part-time teacher. So being able to fund that, that is one of the areas that the social worker, Ms. Bowles, is looking at, is trying to find an outside partner that would be willing to come in. So we don't have the money for that in Knox County Schools, but we can definitely, that is one of the areas that we're looking at for partnering. I know that the social worker is doing, she is going to talk to Judge Irwin about this because he's a huge advocate for our social work department, but she is doing an angel tree. And so we are going to have it based from the detention center this year. And so we will have a tree that will be done. So that will include a lot of art, and it takes several months to get that organized. So she will be doing that personally, but in addition to that, she will look for community partners.
I imagine that groups like Joy Music School may be able to provide that part, and Arts Alliance or other organizations may be able to help as well. So
I was going to ask Mr. Bivens, is Joy of Music, are you already partnering with them?
Not currently.
Not currently.
other questions about Knox County Schools and our education programs?
Not really a question, just a comment though. Especially since this is commissioners on this board, and we sometimes are concerned about financing and the monies that go to our schools. You know, the detention facility averages, like we've seen, 12, 14, maybe 16 students. Keep in mind, many of those students are there for like 2 days or 3 days, but all this plan still is initiated, and the resources really that Knox County Schools is talking about that they put in these kids is quite it's quite costly per student when you consider that there are so few students that are there that are being educated at any one time. I mean, that kind of thing. So it is truly, in many ways, the cost of supporting another full school setting, even though it's physically not housed on its own. So.
And they're able to, students are able to, if they came to the juvenile detention facility and they were, 3 months into school, the educational team that you have is pulling, what grade are they in, what are the lesson plans, what are their homeworks, and bringing it in, so maybe that when they leave, they can keep on the same, they're not, so far behind when they go back to school.
Right, we, the educational service plan, we reach out to the school, we consult with them, we talk to the social workers. I'm talking about Knox County School students at this point. We reach out to the teachers through the school counselor of the base school, and if teachers are willing to give us work, we can give them the work and turn it into the teacher grades it and gives them grades even while they are in our center. Most of the time, the schools will let us know what ingenuity courses to put them in, and they can earn credits that way. We've had a couple of students graduate last year. We had one, and we were able to throw, a graduation party and invite the family. So if students do earn their diploma, they can still graduate. We have a process for that. But our goal is to make sure that if they're here long-term or short-term, that we can meet their educational needs. And so we do a lot of communication with the base schools, in county, out of county. We know our point of contacts for our justice involved students very well because we talk to the same people all the time to try to get information. And most of the time schools are willing to do whatever they need to. We have teachers that will drop books off for the students and have like pages flagged for them to do. We have a lot of devoted teachers in Knox County that are willing to go above and beyond to help the students.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
For joining us. Is there any new business to come before the board or any additional or upcoming items that you all want to see on a future agenda from any other agency, department, topics that you want Mr. Bivens to dig into? If you don't have them today, you can always email them to me and we can add them to a future agenda, but if there's anything top of mind.
Without getting into specifics, I would be interested in seeing some type of health report. So many people were taken to Dr. Keeble, so many people the nurse visited with, just general, not any specifics about
Sure.
what was wrong with him, but I think it's kind of, it's one of the ways we got here. Let's make sure we're doing that right.
We'll add
The other-
ask the health department to join us.
Other thing about these diversions that, I call them diversions, but imagine being there every day, all day, and what a relief it is to have somebody come in and teach you something, or have music, or have art. I don't know when you went on your tour, if they took you on the part of the tour where they showed you the gym. They replaced those basketballs every month because in 1 month's time, those kids wear the skin off of a basketball, 2 of them. And so they like diversions, and it makes them happy, and I think a happy population is, I mean, nobody's ever chipper about being locked up, but I think a happier population is easier to maintain order and discipline. I think it makes his job a little easier if we can get some of this stuff going, at least try some of it. It'd be great. I love the habit dogs. 20 years ago, I asked Mr. Bean, I saw an article in New Mexico where kids were walking dogs from the animal shelter, and I knew our facilities were closed, and I said, Mr. Bean, how about we use these dogs, the animal shelter, to train our kids, and the kids train the dogs. And the next Monday, I came back and there were goats in a pen outside the detention facility. That's a true story. He said, I heard what you said about them dogs, Judge. I said, okay, great. But 20 years later, we got the dog in there. Now the habit dog is in there. So
Are the goats still around?
the goats are not. No,
Okay,
they've moved on.
All right, excellent.
Yes, business. I know last time we talked about KPIs, or that might have been in the email.
Yeah,
Like,
ideas of what are the key metrics to start measuring against.
have we started putting that list together, or?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah, we sort of wanted to, I told Mr. Bivens, I said maybe once we get to our September, October meetings, because he can get our staffing and kind of get all the crucial things in place. But yes, we've talked about that.
Okay.
Excellent.
So my recommendation, if I could just have 24 hours notice or so the night before just to review the packet.
Yeah, most of it we didn't get to, so that's on me though, advanced packet, okay?
Yeah.
Any other items for the board?
Chairman Jay, just the thought that because we are supposed to be a short-term board and the whole plan is some type of a handoff, looking at the decision-making about who in fact is, who are we handing off to and what are our options? I mean, certainly you have needed time to catch your breath and just get in there, and what you've done has been wonderful. And I mean, I would just love it if you could stay forever, but we don't know. So time is sort of the essence now that things are getting up operationally so well.
Yeah,
Just
my
all to your
my
credit.
hope is that certainly by October, but maybe even in September, we start looking at, what are the options, what does it look like? I just had the first sort of even conversation with the sheriff about what we passed, not about the future, but just sort of where are we today? I know that, so I think that's a great opportunity we got to get into it, and we got to find out because December is going to come fast.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Good, I'll
Thank
add
you.
that as well.
I have one question. How many have you hired and how many are you short still, staff-wise?
Currently have 5 in class. They're graduate Friday. Of course, the assistant superintendent comes on board September 2nd. And still a coach short. We got interviews tomorrow. Then I'm also carrying 5 vacancies currently.
So everybody knows in this room and maybe can help and recommend, what's the starting salary for a person, general?
Generally, for the corrections officer is about $51,000.
Plus benefits.
Yep.
Okay. Any other business come before the board?
And they are Knox County employees,
Correct.
is how they are hired on, thank you.
And if the transition continues to the sheriff as planned, they would become not county employees, but under the sheriff's officer and rank and file structure, which would be it's a different classification and training and backgrounds and all that. So, next board meeting is Tuesday, September 16th. And then we will meet again in October 28th, November 13th, and December 16th. Any other business come before the board? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.